Hi everyone, we're here at Morton Arboretum. And since my last video here, the trolls are gone and new statues are being put up for their new exhibit. But one thing is always the same, trees. And that's because here at the Morton Arboretum, they focus on the conservation of all of these trees and protecting trees and showing and educating people the different trees that are in our area and native to other areas as well. Now, trees are a big part of a woodland habitat, and that can include many types of forests. And so when we think of habitats, that's where living things are, like plants and animals. And so in a woodland habitat, it would make sense that some of those plants are trees, and there are many different types of those. So one of the other things that you'll notice when you walk throughout the Arboretum are the different animals that live in the woodlands. You might spot a deer, you might spot a raccoon, a squirrel. There are all kinds of animals in the forest. But you've got to look closely to find some of them. Some of the animals, such as reptiles and amphibians and insects, are hidden deep in the leaves or in the grasses, and you have to look pretty hard. But all kinds of animals live in a woodland habitat. Now, also one of the things you can probably hear in the background are probably the birds. And that's because there are lots of birds in a woodland habitat. We have birds that are large like owls that live in the woods, and we have birds that are super tiny like some finches. And there are many, many, many types of wild animals living in the woods. Now, some of the other things are plants. Down at the base of trees, you can find wildflowers, there are shrubs, there are bushes, there's grasses. You can see all those different types of plants in a woodland habitat, sometimes on the edge of it, sometimes in the middle of it. But you really have to observe a whole woodland habitat to see how many different types of species there are of those plants or of those animals. So your challenge is to go out and find some different forested habitat in Glen, Ellyn, because there's lots of them. We have lots of parks, lots of forest preserves, the Morton Arboretum, all kinds, and try to find as many types of animals and as many types of plants as possible. Good luck. You may notice behind me that there are some trees that have fallen over, and they haven't cleaned it up here at Morton Arboretum. And some people might wonder why. Well, in nature, trees do fall over, and when trees fall over, animals use them for habitats. So while it might look a little bit like a mess, it's actually there on purpose, and animals over time have learned how to make homes inside of some of the fallen tree trunks or to maybe use it as a food source. So they actually play a very important part of a woodland habitat. Thank you, fallen trees. We said that there were different types of forests. So if you look behind me, you can see the trees where the leaves are starting to poke through. They're starting to fill up because it's starting to become spring and nice out. And so those types of trees we're more familiar with, but you might also be familiar with evergreen trees like pines and stuff like that. And when I think of those trees, I think of a dark, spooky forest like you might hear in like a fairy tale. And those look a lot different than the leaves that we see. They have little needles on them. And so that is a completely different habitat where we would find potentially different birds, different animals, and other different plants.